The world imploded with a high-pitched, crystalline shriek. One moment, the neighborhood was hushed, a perfect slice of suburban serenity. The next, a blinding flash of motion and a thunderous crash of glass. A sharp, icy wind rushed through my living room, carrying with it the sickening scent of fear and ozone. My heart hammered a frantic rhythm against my ribs as I raced to the front door. Yanking it open, there she was, Carol Gable, HOA president, the bane of my existence. Her face, usually a canvas of tightly controlled condescension, was now a grotesque rictus of pure, unadulterated rage. Her eyes, wide and wild, looked past me, not at me. In her hand, she wasn't clutching the usual rulebook. She held a small, heavy gardening spade, a fine mist of glass clinging to its edge. My gaze flickered to the bay window, now a gaping, jagged-toothed maw. Oh my God, she actually did it. Did she just shatter my window? The tiny red light on the porch security camera, a silent sentinel, blinked once, twice. Was she even aware of it? This, she spat, her voice a low, venomous growl that sliced through the crisp morning air, is what you get for flagrantly violating our community standards. That grotesque lawn gnome you put out. It's a disgrace to Maplewood Drive. A blight on my perfectly manicured neighborhood. Her chest heaved with a manic fury. A pathetic, almost comical display of a woman who had completely lost control. The irony was so thick you could cut it with a knife. For weeks, she had left passive-aggressive notes, sent emails filled with clipped, imperious language, all about the unauthorized yard ornamentation. But this was a new level of insanity. I took a deep breath, the cool air doing little to soothe the fire in my chest. A silent, weary sigh escaped me. I couldn't believe this was happening. Carol, I said, my voice dangerously calm. Did you just smash my window? The question hung in the air, a bell tolling the beginning of the end. Her head snapped back, her eyes narrowing as if the very notion was an affront. I was merely enforcing the bylaws. The aesthetics of this community are at stake. Leo, you think I enjoy this? I'm the president. I have a duty to uphold the peace and beauty we all agreed upon. She brandished the trowel like a tiny, useless scepter, her indignation swelling. She truly believed her own lies. She'd called the police herself. I could hear the distant siren now, a wail of impending judgment. She thought she had the moral high ground. She thought she was the hero. She was so very, very wrong. A faint, almost imperceptible smirk tugged at the corner of my mouth. A ghost of a memory flitted through my mind-me wife, Sarah, placing the gnome on our lawn, her face glowing with a quiet joy. I'd stand here all day to defend that gnome. You really don't get it, do you? I said, the smirk growing, a spark in the gathering storm. You really think this is about a gnome? The sirens grew louder, a swirling vortex of sound. She recoiled slightly, her brow furrowing in confusion. Of course it is. That thing is a monstrosity, she shrieked, her voice cracking under the strain. And that's when I let the other shoe drop. It's not on my lawn, Carol. It's on a community garden plot. A plot approved by the city council. A plot I've been cultivating in Sarah's memory. The words hung heavy in the air, each one a hammer blow to her self-righteous fortress. The gas from our neighbor, Mrs. Davison, who had just come out to walk her tiny poodle, was a sharp intake of breath. I had been planning this for months. After Sarah passed, Carol's little notes about my unkept lawn had turned into a campaign of harassment. She hadn't known about the community garden. She hadn't bothered to ask. She had just assumed. Just as the patrol car pulled up to the curb with a whisper of tires on asphalt, I added the final, crushing detail. The gnome. Carol, that's not just a gnome. It's a custom-made, ceramic portrait of Sarah's favorite childhood toy. My anniversary gift to her. The day before she died. The air was thick with the weight of my words. Carol's face, which had been contorted with rage, went slack. Her mouth opened and closed soundlessly, like a fish out of water. She was caught. She was truly, utterly, and devastatingly caught. The two police officers, their expressions unreadable, stepped out of their car. One, a tall officer with a serious face, approached me. The other, a younger, more jovial-looking officer, walked up to Carol. "Officer, I am the president of the HOA," she began, finding her voice again, a tremor running through it now. "This man has been in violation of our rules for weeks, and he has been harassing me. I have documented everything." She held up her phone, a pathetic little prop in her fading play. The young officer listened patiently, his gaze drifting from her to the shattered window, then to my face. I remained still, my hands at my sides. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but that doesn't explain the shattered window," he said, his tone polite but firm. "Did you, by chance, cause this damage?" He gestured to the glass-strewn porch. The silence that followed was so loud it was deafening. Carol's eyes darted wildly, searching for a way out. A loophole. A lie to tell. She was panicking, and it was a terrible, beautiful thing to watch. The tall officer turned to me. "Sir, can you explain what happened here?" I simply nodded toward the camera on my porch. "I think the footage speaks for itself, officer, and I'd like to press charges for vandalism." The color drained from Carol's face. The jig was up. She had thought she was an unstoppable force, a neighborhood deity with the power to make and break rules as she saw fit. She had no idea that I, the quiet neighbor with the perpetually mowed lawn, had been a silent observer, a meticulous collector of data, a patient architect of her downfall. I wasn't just a neighbor. I was a man grieving his wife, and I had a right to my memories. And my memories were about to become very, very public. My phone rang. It was David, a tech guy who lived 2 houses down. I just saw everything on the community CCTV feed. "Leo, I've got a copy of the whole thing. The angle is perfect. She came right out of her car, marched up to your window, and just went for it. Oh, and I captured her muttering something about teaching you a lesson. What a piece of work." My hands trembled slightly. The evidence was overwhelming. It wasn't just my camera. The entire street had been watching her little show. My calm facade almost broke. The rage, the raw, burning fury that I had held in check for months threatened to boil over. But I held it back. I had to stay calm. The truth was about to do all the talking for me. The officers were speaking to Carol now, their voices low and serious. She was stammering, her hands gesturing wildly, her carefully constructed persona unraveling like a cheap sweater. One of the officers walked back to his patrol car and returned with a small, portable tablet. "Ma'am, we need to take a look at the security footage from Mr. Miller's camera." He turned to me. "Mr. Miller, do you mind?" I just shook my head. "It's all on the cloud. I can pull it up right now." As I spoke, I accessed the footage on my phone and shared the clip. The air was electric with tension. The other officer and Carol huddled around the tablet, the flickering images on the screen a beacon of inescapable truth. The clip played. There was no sound at first, just the silent, serene morning. Then, the audio from the camera kicked in. We heard Carol's car door slam, the sharp, deliberate click of her heels on the pavement. And then, her voice, laced with bitter venom. "Take that, you little garden troll," she hissed, followed by the sickening, ear-splitting sound of the glass shattering, and the tiny, pathetic clink of the trowel falling to the ground. The video ended with her standing there, a triumphant but utterly delusional expression on her face. Before I opened the door, the officers looked at each other, a shared, silent communication passing between them. Then, they turned their gaze back to Carol, whose face was now a pasty white, her eyes wide with a terror I had never seen before. She had built her kingdom of rules and bylaws on a foundation of sand. And with one little video clip, it had all washed away. The young officer pulled out a notepad and pen. "Carol Gable, I'm going to need you to step over here. We're going to have to talk about charges of vandalism and destruction of property." A collective sigh rippled through the gathered neighbors. Some looked on in disbelief. others with a quiet sense of satisfaction. I saw Mrs. Davison's husband, a man who had always been terrified of Carol, give me a small, conspiratorial nod. This wasn't just my victory. It was a victory for the entire community, a victory for common sense, and a brutal, unflinching lesson in the power of karma. As the officers led Carol away, her head bowed in shame. She shot one last glance at me. It wasn't the fiery glare of a bully anymore, but a vacant, hollow stare of a person who had lost everything. Her reputation, her position, her pride was all gone. The sound of her quiet sobbing was a stark contrast to the triumphant fury she had displayed just moments before. I stood on my porch, the glass crunching under my feet, the cold wind whipping through the newly created hole in my wall. A wave of exhaustion washed over me. I had won, but it was a hollow, bittersweet victory. The damage was done. The memories of Sarah were still there, but so was the gaping hole in my living room. I just wanted to go inside, sit on the couch, and not think about any of it. But then, a hand on my shoulder. It was Mrs. Davison. She said nothing, just looked at the shattered window and then back at me. A genuine, human kindness in her eyes. "Leo," she said, her voice soft and hesitant. "My husband and I, we'd be happy to help you board that up. We have some plywood in the garage." My eyes welled up. It was a small gesture, but it meant the world. The silence was finally broken, not by the sound of glass shattering or a bully's venomous words, but by the quiet, hesitant offer of human compassion. The community, once held captive by a tyrant's rules, was beginning to heal. And I, the quiet man with the disgraceful gnome, was finally starting to feel a sense of peace. Was it worth it? Was the satisfaction of seeing her get her instant karma worth the grief, the stress, and the cost of the damage? And what would you have done? Would you have fought back? Or just let it go? Share your thoughts below on the fine line between right and wrong when dealing with a bully.